No, it's 55. Dear delegate, Dear delegates, we're about 20 parties away from quorum. Please make sure that your cards are inserted in your machines. Thank you. We're 10 parties away from quorum. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We will start the afternoon session now. We will start with agenda item 13, CITES Strategic Vision, which is submitted by the Standing Committee. The COP is invited to adopt the amendments to Resolution Conference 16.4 on cooperation of CITES with other biodiversity-related conventions, and the amendments to Resolution Conference 18.3 on CITES Strategic Vision 2021 to 2030, contained in annexes. The COP is also invited to delete 19.11 to 19.14. I will now take recommendations. And also adopt the indicator for Objective 1.4 of the CITES Strategic Vision. It is in the updated document 13, Ref 1. Okay, now I will take comments from the parties. I will take the recommendations one by one first. So I will first open the floor for comments from parties regarding the proposed amendments to the two resolutions. So 16.4 and 18.3. I open the floor now. United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The United States broadly supports the recommendations, but with some changes, and we have several revisions that we're requesting for the amendments to Resolution Conference 16.4 and Resolution Conference 18.3. We kindly direct the parties and the Secretariat to Information Document 58, Paragraph 5, if you'd like to see our proposed edits in writing. The United States has made it clear that we will no longer affirm the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Sustainable Development Goals as they advance a program of soft global governance inconsistent with the sovereignty of states. Such references should be eliminated from the draft. We urge CITES to delink its efforts from the 2030 Agenda framework and advance the Sustainable Development Goals and instead focus on specific objectives directly relevant to the implementation of CITES' important core mission. Similarly, the United States recognizes the contribution of CITES' core mission to the goals related to either MEAs, especially at the level of national implementation. We want to ensure that CITES' mandate and specific objectives are not subsumed by other relevant conventions. Along these lines, we have several revisions we suggest for Resolution Conference 16.4 and 18.3, and again, we direct parties and the Secretariat to Information Doc 58, which I will briefly read in now. Resolution Conference 16.4 on cooperation of CITES in other conventions. In the second paragraph of the preambular text where it states, stressing, we would like to insert after the word CITES, will support. So again, it reads, stressing that effective implementation of CITES, insert will support. For the fourth paragraph of the preambular text, we suggest deleting the paragraph starting with underlining. In the eighth paragraph of the preambular text, we suggest deleting the first part of this paragraph beginning with recognizing, and instead beginning with encouraging the parties to MEAs. In the last paragraph of the resolution, paragraph 4, we suggest adding two words, reads as follows, encourages parties through their CITES and CBD focal points, comma, as appropriate insert, to take into account. For Resolution Conference 18.3 on the CITES Strategic Vision 2021-2030, we suggest deleting the following references to the Sustainable Development Goals in the CITES Strategic Vision. Under the CITES Strategic Vision, we suggest deleting, under the fourth paragraph of the introduction, the bullet point that says, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and its Sustainable Development Goals, and its target relevant to CITES, including those for terrestrial and marine wildlife. Under Objective 4.2, we suggest a revision to, quote, the importance of achieving CITES aim as a contribution to achieving the, and then strike out the words relevant sustainable development goals as well as the post-2020. Thank you.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We support adoption of the proposed amendments to Resolution Conf 16.4 and Resolution Conf 18.3. In addition, we propose to add references to the BB&J agreement in both resolutions. Because of the time limit, well, I guess I can read them now because we divided this in two parts. So we suggest adding in Resolution Conf 18.3 the following recital after the first recital. Welcoming the agreement on biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction and looking forward to its forthcoming implementation. As far as Resolution Conf 16.4 is concerned, we suggest adding in the second recital, stressing that effective implementation, it starts like that, the following text at the end, and the agreement on biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction. After the third recital, we suggest adding a new recital, stressing that CITES should also contribute to the implementation of the agreement on biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction. In the text of the resolution, we suggest modifying paragraph 3 as follows. Instructs the Secretariat to contribute to the monitoring framework of the coming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework and to the future implementation of the agreement on biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction by providing to the Secretariats of the agreements any relevant data it has collected on the indicators for the CITES Strategic Vision 2021-2030, if so requested by the Secretariats. We have submitted these proposals to the Secretariat in writing. Thank you.
Russian Federation, you have the floor.
Спасибо, госпожа председатель. Мы в целом согласны с внесенными изменениями. Мы полагаем, что они адекватно отражают те процессы, которые происходили с 2022 года. И в целом поддерживаем эти резолюции. У нас есть несколько конкретных предложений по тексту. И потом, может быть, так сказать, рефлексия по поводу предложений со стороны Европейского Союза. Первый пункт. В документе 16.4 в третьем пункте мы полагаем, что уже поздно вносить вклад в программу мониторинга как таковую. Поэтому мы считаем, что язык должен быть следующим, и я на английском прочитаю. Instructs the Secretariat to contribute to the reporting on the implementation of the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, and then follow the text and delete monitoring framework, because the contribution will not be to a monitoring framework. And we like to keep this paragraph as it is, and we can't support adding anything related to the other agreements which are not operational yet, neither the agreement itself or its secretariats. So one day when they are in place and when they know their program of work, and we also know and we can assess how CITES can contribute, we will come back to those points. В пункте 4, тоже 16.4, предлагаем следующий вариант. И мы согласны с предложением Соединенных Штатов о включении после focal points as appropriate. И после слов non-detrimental findings, we like to add the following text. Development of non-detriment findings and any relevant national data collected on the indicators for the CITES Strategic Vision 2130 when developing the national reports to CBD. So we like CITES to contribute this way through parties, but again, as I said, we agree with the suggestion from US that it will be bound by as appropriate. For 18.3, we also agree with US for the paragraph starting recognizing that the CITES strategic vision, of course, post-2020 should be deleted. And at the end of the sentence, after its 15 meetings, we like to stress that Kunming biodiversity framework, it's not just CBD framework, it's for all, for the entire UN system and beyond. And we like to see wording and welcomed in resolution 78/155 of the United Nations General Assembly. So with that will be a recognition that this framework is basically for all and everyone can find a place how to contribute to its implementation, including CITES. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Gabon, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Comme c'est la première fois que le Gabon prend la parole, je voudrais commencer par remercier les autorités et le peuple ouzbek pour leur accueil chaleureux et saluer votre présence du comité pour votre conduite avisée de nos travaux. Le Gabon remercie le comité permanent et le secrétariat pour ce travail qui renforce la cohérence entre la vision de la stratégie CITES et le cadre mondial de la biodiversité de Kunming-Montréal. Nous considérons que les amendements proposés aux résolutions CONF 16.4 et CONF 18.3 contribueront à une coopération plus efficace entre les conventions relatives à la biodiversité sans créer de charges supplémentaires pour les parties. Le Gabon soutient donc l'adoption de ces amendements. Toutefois, nous veillerons à ce que les indicateurs retenus traduisent fidèlement les réalités biologiques et les critères spécifiques à la CITES afin de garantir leur pertinence et leur applicabilité. Je vous remercie.
Norway, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Norway supports the amendments to the resolutions prepared by the Standing Committee with the amendments suggested by the EU relating to the BBNJ agreement. Thank you.
Fiji, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Fiji also would like to support the inclusion of suggested text on the references to the BBNJ agreement, in particular in the preamble paragraph where it is stating on recognizing the adoption of the agreement under the United Nations Law of the Sea on the conservation and sustainable use of marine biological diversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction, comma, which is expected to enter into force in January 2026, comma, and noting its relevance to global efforts to conserve marine biodiversity as a standalone paragraph. Further, we also support the inclusion of references to BBNJ in the operative paragraphs as suggested by the EU. Thank you.
Fiji, can I get you to repeat again, please, on the edits?
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the preamble paragraph, we believe that it is important to reflect the BBNJ agreement as a standalone paragraph. Therefore, after the paragraph on commending the ongoing and important cooperation among secretariats, the inclusion of a new preamble paragraph, which, and I'll say it in transcription speed, recognizing the adoption of the agreement under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea on the conservation and sustainable use of marine biological diversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction, comma, which is expected to enter into force in 2026, comma, and noting its relevance to global efforts to conserve marine biodiversity. In terms of all other additions in the operative paragraphs, we support EU suggestions and inclusions on references to BBNJ. Thank you.
Chile, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta. Solo quisiéramos apoyar las menciones hechas por otras partes sobre la inclusión del Tratado de Alta Mar, BBNJ, tanto en el preambular como también en los párrafos operativos. Muchas gracias.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We do not agree to delete references to the SDGs or the KMGBF. But there were so many changes proposed during the discussion that we would like to see them in writing before agreeing on them. Thank you.
I now open the floor to non-parties and observer organizations. Okay, I do not see any comments from the non-parties or observer organizations. So from the comments from parties, I see that there are 3 substantial amendments. So I will just list them first, then we can go through each of them. So firstly is on including the mention of BBNJ. And second is remove the mention of Sustainable Development Goals. And the third one is removal of mention of the Kunming-Montreal, the KMGBP. Yeah, GBF. So this is the three substantial changes. So I'll go through the first one first, the inclusion of BBNJ. I would like to get some views, like are there any objections to the inclusion of BBNJ? Noting that Russia Federation did oppose the mention of BBNJ. Yeah. Russia Federation, you have the floor.
Спасибо, госпожа председатель. Да, мы уже сказали о том, что мы не готовы на этом этапе видеть текст, который касается этого соглашения до тех пор, пока оно полностью не вступило в силу. Мы не считаем правильным делать какие-то ссылки на что-то, что будет работать в будущем. Речь идет еще и о том, что мы не знаем ни программы этого соглашения, ни точно как и чем оно будет заниматься, поэтому мы не видим на сегодняшний день возможности его использовать. В то же время соглашение было заключено, у нас есть больше 70 сторон этого соглашения, поэтому мы можем согласиться с одним параграфом в преамбуле, которое утверждает, что такое соглашение было принято. Мы не можем согласиться welcome, мы можем сказать, что, скажем, признаем, да, или acknowledge, или recognize, что оно было принято, поскольку далеко не все являются его сторонами. Поэтому на этом этапе мы можем согласиться только с преамбульной частью, но мы не согласны с включением каких-либо параграфов в резолютивной части документа. Спасибо.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The United States opposes the various proposed edits to include reference to the BB&J as it conflates CITES with unrelated bodies.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The BB&J agreement will enter into force on 17th January 2026. We think it is essential to make links between this agreement and CITES, as many CITES-listed species in their life cycle use spaces beyond national jurisdiction. One of the benefits of the BB&J agreement is the potential for improving synergies between relevant international frameworks and bodies such as CITES, and this should be acknowledged and fully exploited. Thank you.
Mexico, you have the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Apoyamos la sugerencia de la Unión Europea para hacer referencia a BBNJ porque es parte, en CITES consideramos introducción procedente del mar. Es un término formal en nuestra convención cuando se pesca en aguas internacionales y hay una relación natural. Nos parece que hacer la mención en la sección preambular, reconociendo que esto está avanzando, es suficiente, sin entrar todavía a la parte de los párrafos operativos como sugiere Rusia. Así es que nos parece pertinente hacer esta referencia. Gracias.
New Zealand, you have the floor.
Thank you. New Zealand would also like to support the reference to BB&J in the preambular and operative paragraphs as recommended by Fiji and the European Union. Thank you.
Nigeria, you have the floor.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Nigeria, we also want to support the adoption of the BB&J as it enters into force next year, because it will enhance marine biodiversity protection and strengthens Nigeria's blue economic vision. Thank you.
Sudan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Sudan support the position of Russian Federation. Thank you.
Fiji, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Allow me to come in and just quickly respond to some of the comments that we are hearing in terms of openness to inclusion of BB&J language in the preamble, but not so much in the operative paragraph. Chair, as you know that including the references to BB&J actually signals that CITES is attentive to this evolving legal landscape and ensures that the convention remains forward-looking and relevant. It also reinforces that CITES places within the broader architecture of multilateral environmental agreements. And so waiting for its entry into force really risks CITES appearing reactive rather than anticipatory. We also believe that a reference in the preamble only provides context and recognition of this global momentum, while an operative paragraph carefully crafted within the mandates will allow parties to begin coordinating information as well as promoting coherence without creating new obligations. This is fully consistent with treaty practice in other fora, where new instruments are acknowledged during the transition phase. Also, the BB&J agreement introduces new processes related to marine biodiversity in areas beyond national jurisdiction, and there is a clear value in signaling mutual supportiveness among relevant instruments. A simple operative reference can enable early coordination, exchange of information, and minimization of duplication. For small island developing states who lack the resources to navigate fragmented systems, this is an efficiency that is not theoretical, it is essential for us. So our proposal does not expand CITES mandate, does not imply jurisdiction over other MEAs, and also does not create a financial and administrative burden. Rather, it acknowledges a major new treaty under UNCLOS, it encourages coherence within respective mandates, and it also preserves the integrity of CITES decision-making. In short, Fiji supports the inclusion of BB&J language at this stage and encourages other parties to do so likewise. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm hearing that there is support for BB&J to be mentioned in the preambular and not in the operative paragraphs. I'm going to suggest some text which is based on Fiji's edits just now. So I will read out the text and we will put it in the preambular. Then I will ask views from the floor. The text will be recognizing the adoption of BB&J expected to enter into force in 2026, noting its relevance to global efforts to conserve marine biodiversity. I will now open the floor to parties for their views. Russian Federation, you have the floor.
Спасибо, госпожа председатель, и спасибо за вашу конструктивную позицию найти выход. Хотя мы не поддерживаем упоминание BBNJ в этом контексте, мы согласны с вашим предложением и согласны с таким параграфом. Спасибо.
Mexico, you have the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. También estamos de acuerdo con la formulación que usted propone, nada más que al final usted menciona para la conservación y creemos que es importante que sea conservación y uso sustentable. Tener los dos componentes y con eso estaríamos listos para apoyar su propuesta. Gracias.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We also heard some support keeping the operative paragraph, and we also still would like to keep it there. Thank you.
Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Japan supports the intervention by Mexico. Thank you very much.
Norway, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. So Norway is supporting the added references to the BBNJ agreement in both the preamble and operative paragraphs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the comments. Can we agree on the Mexicans preamble, the edits, and we move on from here? Okay, now we will move on to the next edit, which is the removal of the mention of sustainable development goals. Can I get views from the parties on the removal of mention of SDG? Fiji, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, we strongly object to the removal of any references to SDG goals. This has to be recorded, please.
Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Our preference would be to maintain the reference to the KMGBF and SDGs. Thank you.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We would like to echo the comments made by previous two speakers. Thank you.
Norway, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Norway does not support the removal of the reference to the Sustainable Development Goals either. Thank you.
United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We'd align with the other speakers and support the retention of this language. Thank you.
Mexico.
Gracias, señora presidenta. También queremos mantener ambas referencias a los SDGs y al Marco Mundial de Biodiversidad. Gracias.
Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We also oppose the deletion of the reference to SDGs. Thank you.
Zambia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We align with the others in opposing the deletion of the SDGs, the reference to the SDGs.
Sudan, you have the floor.
Sudan oppose the deletion of SDGs from the...
Chile, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta. Solo queremos sumarnos a la opinión de otras partes sobre mantener la mención a los ODS y también al marco global de biodiversidad de CBD. Gracias.
China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We echo Chile and most parties. Thank you.
Okay, I'm hearing everyone's support on retaining the SDG in the document. So we will move on then, that we will retain the mention of SDG. So the next edit will be the removal of KMGBF. And I hear that Canada and Mexico also show support to retain. So I would like to hear views from other parties. Dominican Republic, you have the floor.
Sí, gracias, señora presidenta. Es básicamente para unirnos a los demás países en mantener las dos menciones. Gracias.
Russia Federation, you have the floor.
Спасибо, госпожа председатель. CITES – важная конвенция, имеющая непосредственное отношение к биоразнообразию. Поэтому мы считаем, что, как и другие страны, указание на КМ-GBF должно быть сохранено. Спасибо.
Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We also oppose the deletion of this reference. Thank you.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We would also like to maintain this reference in the text. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to wrap up this edits already. I have heard support for retaining the KM-GBF mention as well. So both SDG and KM-GBF will be retained in the document as original. Now we will move on. United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Since our edits regarding the removal of references to the SDGs were not taken on, we submit a note for the official record as follows. The United States rejects and denounces the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Sustainable Development Goals, and it will no longer affirm them as a matter of course.
Okay, now I will come back to the suggestion from European Union to include the mention of BBNJ in the operative paragraphs. European Union, could you just clarify again which paragraphs you wanted to mention BBNJ? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We would like to add BBNJ in Resolution Conf 18.3, a new recital after the first recital. And it would read, welcoming the agreement on biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction and looking forward to its forthcoming implementation. And should I continue also on 16.4?
European Union, we are going through the operative paragraphs for 16.4.
Okay, thank you. So in the text of the resolution, we suggest modifying paragraph 3 as follows, and I will read it from the beginning. Instructs the Secretariat to contribute to the monitoring framework of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework and to the future implementation of the agreement on biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction by providing to the secretariats of the agreements any relevant data it has collected on the indicators for the CITES Strategic Vision 2021-2030, if so requested by the secretariats. Thank you, Chair.
Can I see if there's any support for this edit by European Union? Fiji, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to seek clarity in terms of the way in which the suggestion, I mean, it is very important that it is referenced, but I believe just to seek clarity from the distinguished delegate of EU in terms of the references to the Secretariat. So our understanding is that Russia had made a proposal to also remove the words contributes to the monitoring. So in this case, am I correct in understanding that if you are going to be referencing the BBNJ agreement, we by providing to the Secretariat at large of Secretariat of CITES at large, if that's correct, and not to the Secretariat of CBD, as BBNJ would come under the UNCLOS and UNCLOS Secretariat. So just to understand if I'm on the same page as the EU, and if that is so the case, then we full-heartedly support the inclusion of the references to BBNJ within Operative Para 3. Thank you.
I do not see any support for the inclusion or the edits that is made by European Union in the operative paragraph 3. And also we have already agreed to have a preamble to mention about BBNJ. So I would like to move on and close this item. Fiji, you have the floor.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I don't think so you've answered my question. It's not that I'm objecting, I'm seeking clarification. And I think it's factually incorrect that you are saying that there is not much support. In fact, many countries or many parties have actually supported the inclusion of references to BBNJ in the operative paragraph. So, and we should not be repeating ourselves in terms of the support that has already been demonstrated in terms of its references within the operative paragraph. So my question is more on clarity, and as I had mentioned, Fiji supports its inclusion. It's just how it's worded is very important in terms of referencing with Secretariat, and for the purposes of this para in particular, how it's going to be included is very important. Thank you.
Okay, I've only heard Fiji supported the inclusion of BBNJ into the operative para. So I just want to ask parties again if there are any parties that are supportive of this mention in the operative paragraph. Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you. Australia does also support inclusion of the operative paragraphs. Thank you.
Congo, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame. Je pense que l'intervention de la Russie tout à l'heure était fondée. Si nécessaire, d'ajouter, au lieu de parler de la convention de la CDB, il parlait de la convention, le secrétaire de la CITES. Parce qu'ici, il s'agit du secrétaire de la CITES, comme a bien dit la Fédération de Russie. Merci.
New Zealand, you have the floor.
Thank you. Just to confirm that New Zealand had also supported the operative text. Thank you.
Chile, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta. Nosotros apoyábamos la mención del Tratado de BBNJ, tanto en el preámbulo como en los párrafos operativos, pero a modo de aclaración nosotros habíamos entendido que, dado lo que había mencionado Rusia, una buena alternativa fue lo que usted misma propuso, de mantenerlo en el preámbulo, de la forma que usted hizo el párrafo, digamos, y no se mantendría en los siguientes párrafos, por lo que solicitamos una aclaración, por favor. Gracias.
Russia Federation, you have the floor.
Спасибо, госпожа председатель. У меня вопрос к вам и к секретариату. В ситуации, когда мы не видим текста на экране, и иногда сложно за ним следить, и после многочисленных выступлений понять, что все-таки там произошло с текстом. Если бы вы могли прочитать параграф номер 3 в документе 16.4, как он будет звучать, если там будет упоминание BBNJ, и насколько упоминание BBNJ вообще имеет смысл именно в этом параграфе, в его контексте. Прочитайте, пожалуйста. Спасибо.
Okay, I'll pass the floor to Secretariat.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So looking at paragraph 3, So it is an instruction to the CITES Secretariat, just to begin with, that's how it starts. It instructs the Secretariat to contribute to the monitoring framework of the KMGBF. So the question is how the CITES Secretariat will contribute to the monitoring framework of the KMGBF. And I think Russia had an edit there suggesting that the CITES Secretariat could contribute to the reporting of the implementation of the KMGBF. That's an alternative text. But then comes later the edits by the EU. So we instruct the Secretariat to contribute to the monitoring framework of the KMGBF. And also we instruct the Secretariat to contribute to the future implementation of the BBNJ agreement. And how are we going to do that? We're going to do that by providing to the Secretariats. I think that was just made plural because basically the CITES Secretariat would be giving data to the CBD Secretariat for indicators relevant to the KMGBF, and we would be providing also data then to the Secretariat of the BBNJ. So what the CITES Secretariat would have to provide would be any relevant data it has collected on the indicators of a CITES Strategic Vision 2021-2023. And the last edit was if so requested by the Secretariats plural, because that would mean sending it to the CBD Secretariat and also sending it to the Secretariat for the future BBNJ. Hopefully that will clarify the text. I can reread it, but I was trying to explain it as it goes. Thank you.
Russia Federation, just want to check if that was clear.
Спасибо большое. Объяснения были понятны, но все-таки было полезно, если бы секретариат просто прочитал этот параграф.
Okay, I give the floor to Secretariat to repeat again.
So now we'll just stick to the text exactly as proposed by the EU, and I will omit the edit by the Russian Federation, just to really focus on the EU. Instructs the Secretariat to contribute to the monitoring framework of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, insert new text here, and to the future implementation of the BBNJ agreement by providing to the Secretariat of the agreements, to both Secretariat, any relevant data it has collected on the indicators for the CITES Strategic Vision 2021-2030, if so requested by the Secretariats plural. Thank you.
Fiji, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just in the interest of some of the comments that have been mentioned, but also trying to bridge any divergence in perspectives, our attempt to provide a bridging proposal, and I can provide it at transcription speed if you would like me to do so. So operating paragraph 3 to be modified to read as follows. Instructs the Secretariat to contribute to the monitoring of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework and to the future implementation of the Agreement on Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction by providing to the Secretariats of these agreements these as in THESE agreements, any relevant data it has collected on the indicators for the CITES Strategic Vision 2021-2030, as appropriate. Please let me know if you need me to repeat.
Mexico, you have the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Con tantas enmiendas es un poco confuso, pero agradezco a la Secretaría la explicación donde pregunta cómo la Secretaría CITES puede contribuir, por un lado, al monitoreo, al marco de monitoreo de Kunming-Montreal. Eso, tenemos una instrucción clara, hubo una notificación por parte del Secretariado de Diversidad Biológica para solicitar a los tratados multilaterales ambientales información que ayude a preparar el informe global de progreso colectivo del marco mundial, cuya fecha incluso acaba de vencer. Cuando se pida que siga contribuyendo, eso lo vemos perfectamente coherente. Pero, ¿cómo va a contribuir con información a BBNJ? Nos parece ahorita un poco prematuro hasta que tengamos más elementos. Yo me pregunto cómo la Secretaría va a compilar qué información para que sea efectiva la manera de contribuir al marco de monitoreo o a la implementación, que es un término muy amplio. Creo que no está claro exactamente cómo. Entendemos la intención de Fiji y de la Unión Europea, pero en este momento nos parece un poco prematuro hasta saber exactamente qué tipo de información es la que el Secretariado de CITES puede, en estos estadios tan tempranos, cuando logra entrar en vigor el nuevo tratado, pudiese mandar. Eso es algo que todavía no tenemos claro. Quizá podemos tener en otra oportunidad más adelante en el comité permanente la opción de revisar esto más adelante. Nos parece ahorita un poco prematuro, pero actualmente como está el texto tiene sentido al menos para el marco mundial de biodiversidad. Gracias.
Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to all the interveners for this conversation. Canada's a bit concerned that we have spent almost an hour on this item, and so we are hoping we can provide a pragmatic way forward, picking up on the comments made from our colleague from Mexico. We very much welcome the new preambular paragraph as originally proposed by Fiji and supported by many, many countries, including Canada. We would have liked to seek a solution to include some level of operative communication, but we hear what our colleagues from Mexico say about our ability to formulate it at this particular stage. And we're also really cognizant that I believe under Doc 52, we will have another opportunity to think about the relationship between CITES and the BBNJ in the context of introduction from the sea. So perhaps in the interest of moving forward, we could retain the new preambular paragraph that we very much welcome, but leave the operative paragraph focused right now on the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, and hopefully then we will be able to move on. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I've heard all the views, and to move forward, can we accept the compromise to just leave it as it is for paragraph 3, operators of now, because we have it in the preambular, and that this can be also considered further and taken up under item 52. So I would like to see if there's agreement to just move forward with this. European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We would have liked to keep the operative part as well, but in the spirit of compromise, we can go on as suggested by Canada and you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. Okay, so I will close this item now. We will now move to recommendation 23A on adopting the indicator 1.4.1. I now open the floor for parties. European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The EU and its member states welcome the work done on the strategic vision and its indicators. The Standing Committee agreed in its 77th meeting on an indicator for Objective 1.4. Unfortunately, the follow-up work didn't result in agreement on additional indicators. With regard to the indicator recommended for adoption, we would like to share 2 observations. Firstly, we generally believe that the results of the periodic review can be useful to assess the Objective 1.4. However, only a small percentage of species listed in appendices have been reviewed under the periodic review so far, which limits the usefulness of this indicator. Secondly, it is unclear how the number and proportion of species that have been found to meet the listing criteria based on amendment proposals will be determined. We wonder whether this number would just equal the number of CITES listed species. In this case, the indicator would not have much meaning. We can agree to recommendation A, but we are of the opinion that further work would still be justified for measuring progress with the Objective 1.4 adequately, and to identify an additional meaningful indicator. Therefore, we propose to renew Decision 1914 with minor amendments, as the considerations are of scientific nature and should involve the Animals and Plants Committees as a whole, and to replace the 20th meeting with the 21st meeting. The decision would read: the Standing Committee shall, in consultation with the Animals and Plants Committees through their chairs, make recommendations on an additional indicator for Objective 1.4 of the CITES Strategic Vision 2021-2030 for consideration by the 21st meeting of the Conference of the Parties. We agree that decisions 1911 to 1913 have been fulfilled and can be deleted. We have submitted this suggested decision to the Secretariat in writing. Thank you.
European Union, I just want to confirm that you agree to adopt the indicator 23A, the recommendation.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, thank you. Mexico, you have the floor.
Señora Presidenta, no me queda claro si la Unión Europea no está de acuerdo con el indicador 1.4.1. Para nosotros, que según recuerdo México lo propuso, es tener claridad en cuántas de las especies que se encuentran en los apéndices actualmente verdaderamente cumplen con los criterios de inclusión de la resolución CONF 924. Eso no quiere decir que todas las que actualmente estén lo cumplan. Aquí lo importante es qué proporción realmente cumple para que estén en el apéndice que les corresponde y sobre las que no tendríamos que tomar decisiones, ya sea para que sean eliminadas, para que sean cambiadas a un apéndice de mayor preocupación o menor, etcétera. Ese es el propósito de la revisión periódica. Actualmente no tenemos la certeza de que todas las especies incluidas en los apéndices cumplen con los criterios. Entonces, no estamos de acuerdo con la interpretación de la Unión Europea de que es el mismo número y de que no tenga sentido. Gracias.
Yeah, Mexico, I think I just got you just now to confirm that they are agreed to adopt the indicator for 1.4.1. So I did not see any objection for indicator 1.4.1 to be adopted under recommendations 23A. So I will wrap up 23A. And now is the last recommendation that we'll go through, which is to delete decisions 19.11 to 19.14. And I think EU has provided new text for renewal of 19.14. So I open the floor for comments and views. So silence means agree. Okay. United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The United States supports the deletion of Decision 19.14. Thank you, Chair.
Can I get more views for 19.14? Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Australia also supports the deletion of Decision 19.14. Thank you.
Okay, so I take it that silence is consent to EU's proposal to editing and renewing 19.14. Okay, New Zealand, you have the floor.
New Zealand also supports deletion of 19.14. Thank you.
Canada, you have the floor.
Canada thanks the EU for their proposal, but given the time we have spent talking about indicators, at this point Canada would prefer to delete the decisions. including 19.14, and also in consideration of the workload for the committees. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I do not see any support for the edit, so the decision 19.14 will be deleted. Okay, I'll just go through again the recommendations on what we are agreeing to. So for 23A, we will be adopting the indicator 1.4.1. For 23B and C, the preambular will be placed in 16.4 and 18.3, the preambular on BBNJ. And then for 23D, decisions 19.11 to 19.14 will be deleted. Okay, I close the item now. Thank you. Okay, so the next agenda item is 16.1 on cooperation with multilateral environmental agreements and other international organizations. This document has been submitted by the Standing Committee. The Conference of the Parties is invited to adopt the amendments to Resolution Conference 16.4 on cooperation of CITES with other biodiversity-related conventions, delete Decision 17.55, Ref COP 19, and Decision 17.56, Ref COP 19, and renew Decisions 19.20 and 19.21. I now open the floor for any parties who would like to comment on the proposed amendments to Resolution Conference 16.4, as well as renewal of Decisions 19.20 and 19.21, and the deletion of Decision 17.55 and Decision 17.56. United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The United States appreciates the work of the Secretariat in raising the profile of CITES and continuing to seek appropriate and mutually beneficial cooperation with other biodiversity-related conventions. However, we caution that the cooperation with other MEAs should not overextend the Secretariat's resources or lead to activities that go beyond the scope and mandate of each convention. With respect to the proposed amendments to Resolution COP 16.4, the United States does not see a need to replace conventions with agreements in Recommendation A. It notes the inconsistency this creates with the second paragraph. The United States further proposes to delete the first half of the 8th preambular paragraph recognizing the UN Conference on the Sustainable Development. Furthermore, the United States does not see a path forward in which an acceptable partnership strategy will be developed in the next intersessional period. We therefore do not support renewal of decisions 19.2 and 19.220 and 1921. Thank you.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Speaking on behalf of the UN's member states, we support the amendments to Resolution Conf 16.4 and the draft decisions. However, we have some amendments to the resolution 16.4. We would like to add the following recital: welcoming the agreement on biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction agreement and looking forward to its forthcoming implementation. Second, regarding paragraph 1 and 2 in the resolution, we believe that the terms cooperation and coordination are already encompassed within the concept of the term synergies. We therefore propose to focus on synergies and delete the terms cooperation and coordination, as the current wording unnecessarily separates these terms. And finally, we wish to delete the inclusion of national focal point in paragraph 1, as we see it as redundant. We will submit up our amendments in writing. Thank you, Chair.
I now open the floor for any non-parties and observer organizations. Mexico, you have the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Estamos de acuerdo con las enmiendas propuestas en el documento, incluyendo que se mantenga la referencia a los SDGs, y sobre las sugerencias que acaba de hacer la Unión Europea, podemos estar de acuerdo en la enmienda del párrafo operativo 1 para que se eliminen los términos de cooperación, coordinación y que nos enfoquemos en sinergias, pero no estamos de acuerdo en que se elimine la mención a los puntos focales nacionales. En ocasiones, dentro de un mismo país, pueden ser distintas áreas quienes den seguimiento a los distintos acuerdos, y es muy importante que existe esta cooperación entre puntos focales nacionales dentro del mismo país, que son de diferentes instituciones, siguiendo a diferentes convenios con las convenciones relacionadas con biodiversidad. Gracias.
Russian Federation, you have the floor.
Спасибо, госпожа председатель. Что касается предложения о включении в преамбульную часть параграфа, который касается соглашения BBNJ, мы можем согласиться с этим, если параграф будет в точности такой же, какой мы согласовали при рассмотрении пункта 13. В части параграфа 1 мы считаем, что координация и кооперация очень важны. И так же, как отметил наш уважаемый коллега из Мексики, мы считаем, что необходимо сохранить упоминание национальных фокал-поинтов, потому что в этом залог и синергии, и координации, и кооперации для взаимного выполнения конвенции наиболее эффективным образом, а, например, вовсе не просто в сотрудничестве секретариатов. Мы считаем это принципиальным позицию по вовлечению национальных фокал-поинтов. Поддерживаем Мексику. Спасибо.
China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. China delegation supports deepening cooperation between the CITES and other environmental agreements and other international organizations. We firmly believe that the cooperation with multilateral environment agreements such as the CBD, especially KMGBF, is essential to achieving our shared conversion goals. Strengthening coordination and synergy among these agreements will be contribute to more coordinated actions at all levels. We commend that efforts made under the CITES framework to strengthen this partnership including initiatives to coordinate focal points and strategies among parties in various conventions. We appreciate the progress made to date in cooperation with other conventions and believe that closer coordination with the CBD, especially KMGBF, will further enhance CITES' contribution to halting and reserving biodiversity loss. Thank you, Chairs.
Zimbabwe, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. We also value the importance of coordination and cooperation between CITES and all other biodiversity-related conventions and all other relevant agreements. We'll provide our text or suggestions in writing, but we prefer that the phrase reads like biodiversity-related conventions and all relevant agreements. We wish to retain the word convention in the text because that's the title of the resolution and it's very important for us. Otherwise, everything else is okay with us. So we're going to provide our suggestions in writing. Thank you, Chair.
Chile, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta. Queríamos apoyar la enmienda sobre la cooperación de CITES con otros convenios ambientales, lo que creemos que es crucial para avanzar en los objetivos de cada uno de los convenios. Somos favorables también a la propuesta hecha por cambiar el lenguaje a sinergias. Y por último, también coincidimos con México, Rusia y China en mantener la mención a los puntos focales con objetivos de coordinación y mejorar las sinergias. Muchas gracias, señora presidenta.
Indonesia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Since this is the first time Indonesia takes floor, we warmly congratulate you on your election. Indonesia supports the recommendation before us. We welcome the proposed amendments to the resolution and the renewal of the decisions, as they will strengthen cooperation and synergies across biodiversity-related conventions. We recognize that collaboration is essential, By engaging with other multilateral environmental agreements and international organizations, CITES can enhance efficiency and avoid duplication and deliver greater impact. At the national level, we strongly support the call to strengthen the role of national focal points. Better coordination among focal points will ensure strategies translate into practical action and benefit communities directly. I thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So just to round up on the comments and views taken, so for the first one on the preamble to include BBNJ, yes, there will be a preamble, a paragraph there because it was agreed at the last agenda item. So it will be mentioned here. And also I see a lot of support from the parties to actually retain the original language in paragraph 1 on cooperation, coordination, and national focal points. And also on to retain actually the language conventions instead of agreements. So I will close this recommendation if there are no further comments. Okay, so now we will move to 11B, delete decision 17.55 and decision 17.56. Can I get comments, please?
Silence.
Okay, so silence means accepting it. Okay, so 11C, renew decisions 19.20 and 19.21. Okay, I do not see any request for the floor, so this item is renewed. Okay, I'll close this agenda item then. Thank you. Okay, the next item is 16.2, cooperation with the Global Strategy for Plant Conservation. The document is submitted by the Standing Committee, who proposes the adoption of the amendments to Resolution Conference 16.5 on cooperation with the Global Strategy for Plant Conservation of the Convention on Biological Diversity contained in the annex to the document. I also note that in the Secretariat's comments, there are some editorial changes in the column on CITES' potential contribution. The Conference of the Parties is also invited to delete decisions 19.22 and 19.23. I open the floor now to the parties. Russia Federation, you have the floor.
Спасибо, госпожа председатель. Мы в целом удовлетворены подготовленным документом. Считаем, что он вполне отражает ситуацию после принятия глобальной рамочной программы и то развитие, которое происходит с JSPC. У нас есть два небольших комментария. Во-первых, в параграфе, который начинается noting that since its 13th meeting, в конце этого предложения довольно странная ссылка на КМ-GBF. В конвенции не было никогда никаких других рамочных программ, поэтому мы предлагаем следующим образом изменить. Это будет читаться the voluntary complementary actions under the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. So delete CBD's new. Второе наше, скорее, может быть, вопрос. В пункте 2, маленькое d. Здесь написано invites a CBD representative. это непонятно, что такое. Сторону, секретариат, один из руководящих органов конвенции. Нам представляется здесь два возможных варианта. Либо здесь прямо написано «пригласить секретариат CBD», либо здесь прямо написано «пригласить председателя САПСТы». Одно из двух. Либо написано тогда «пригласить представителя руководящих органов КБР». Это может быть либо бюро КОП, либо бюро САПСТы. Но нам представляется, что здесь, скорее всего, учитывая характер вопроса, это может быть председатель САПСТа. Иначе непонятно тут написано. Спасибо.
United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Chair, we welcome the majority of the amendments to Resolution Conf 16.5 contained in the annex to CoP20 Doc 16.2. However, we propose a number of additional minor amendments to accurately reflect the language used under the Convention on Biological Diversity, or CBD. We have submitted these in writing to the Secretariat. Firstly, in the third preambular paragraph, this is the one that our colleagues in Russia have just made a comment on. We also noted the phrasing at the end of this paragraph, and we'd therefore suggest striking out under the CBD's new global biodiversity framework and replace it with related to plant conservation to support the implementation of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. This better reflects CBD decision COP 1620. Secondly, in the sixth preambular paragraph, starting welcoming decision 1620, we would strike out consolidated update of the global strategy for plant conservation 2011 to 2020 GCSP to support the implementation of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, and replace it with voluntary complementary actions related to plant conservation as an update to the global strategy for plant conservation. Again, this is language used in CBD decision COP 16/20. Thirdly, the voluntary complementary actions have replaced the objectives and targets. So this text, as in objectives and targets, should be removed from operative paragraphs 1A, 2B, 3, 3B, and the title of the table in the annex of the resolution. This has already been carried out in other parts of the resolution, so it would just be making it consistent. Fourthly, we think paragraph 1BI is unclear as currently drafted, as there are national biodiversity strategies and action plans, or MBSAPs, but not GSPC national biodiversity strategies. To address this, we would propose striking out the GSPC national biodiversity strategies and replacing it with activities contributing to the voluntary complementary actions related to plant conservation. Thank you.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. I am now speaking on behalf of the EU and its member states. We would like to say that we agree with the UK's proposals. These are indeed factual corrections. We also support Secretariat's recommendations A and B. And we would also like to point out two other factual corrections. The first one, I believe the UK has already pointed it out. Indeed, the word in amendments to Resolution 16.5, Ref COP20, in 1B Roman 1, the word strategies should be replaced by voluntary complementary actions. So in the sentence, the involvement of CITES authorities in the development and implementation of the GSPC national biodiversity, and then here change strategies by voluntary complementary actions. This is really just a factual change to align the text with CBD decision 1620. And then we have spotted another factual error, it seems, in the table in the annex. So in the line regarding target 17:2, it should be written, no particular plant conservation action is required under target 17 as per decision 1620 of CBD instead of what is written now. Once again, these are only really factual corrections. If you need me to repeat, please don't hesitate.
Mexico, you have the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Son muchas las enmiendas que están siendo propuestas y es complicado darle seguimiento. Sin embargo, de las primeras intervenciones que hizo la delegación rusa, la Federación Rusa, estamos de acuerdo. Hay que nombrar correctamente tanto el Marco Mundial de Biodiversidad como en Montreal, como la referencia a quién puede acompañar a las reuniones del Comité de Flora en representación del Convenio de Diversidad Biológica, ya sea alguien de la Secretaría o alguno de las partes que presidan el órgano científico, según corresponda. Sobre las diversas enmiendas que propone Reino Unido y la anterior intervención, me gustaría puntualizar que no estamos de acuerdo en que se eliminen las estrategias nacionales sobre conservación vegetal, porque existen. Mi país tiene su estrategia de conservación vegetal desde hace algunos años y sigue vigente. Entonces, no se trata nada más de eliminarlo, sino debe de, en adición, promover las nuevas actividades voluntarias que fueron adoptadas en este tema. Es cierto que las nuevas acciones voluntarias a nivel global han reemplazado objetivos de la Estrategia Mundial de Conservación Vegetal, pero a nivel nacional existen varias estrategias que siguen vigentes y eso no debe eliminarse. Gracias.
I will now open the floor to observer organizations and non-parties. Okay, I would just like to check if there's any plants committee representative here. Because I think there was some suggestion to actually invite CBD secretariat or chairperson in view of para 2 small d, inviting a CBD representative to be an observer at Plans Committee. So I would like to get some feedback from the Plans Committee. Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I think it would be fine for it to reference the CBD Secretariat sending a representative. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Australia. Does everybody agree with that? Okay, and also China, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. As the Plant Committee member for Asian region, we agree with the Mexico's statement and suggestion, especially regarding the various CBD representatives. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, in view of there are various edits, I think as Mexico mentioned, there are many edits to the document. Secretariat will be preparing an in-session COM document. So once that's done, it will be published and all the parties can have a look. Okay, so we have done recommendation 9A. So 9B is on deleting decisions 19.22 and 19.23. Okay, I do not see any requests from the floor. I will close this item now. Thank you. Now I turn to agenda item 16.4 on International Consortium on Combating Wildlife Crime. The document is submitted by the Secretariat. The Conference of the Parties is invited to adopt the draft decision on IQIC and delete decisions 19.26 and 19.27. I also note that there is an associated infodoc, CoP20 infodoc 15, which contains the IQIC annual report for 2024. I now open the floor for any parties. United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The United States supports the Secretariat's recommendations with a minor edit to the draft decision 20AA contained in Annex COP20 Doc 16.4 to invite, rather than encourage, parties to take these actions. The United States is encouraged by the overwhelming support and engagement the IQIC has received and commends the work the Secretariat and the IQIC have accomplished. The United States supports IQIC Vision 2030's focus on strengthening wildlife authorities and mobilizing criminal justice systems to ensure criminals involved in wildlife crime are brought to justice and organized crime groups are disrupted. However, we reject the document's invocation of SDGs, particularly those related to climate change and gender equality, which provide no practical value to the document's primary goal of combating wildlife trafficking. The United States also rejects the invocation of gender and human rights in IQIC's toolkit, as neither are relevant to the body's core mission of combating wildlife trafficking. Thank you, Chair.
India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. India has been taking action in combating wildlife crime through the Wildlife Crime Control Bureau and other enforcement agencies. India wishes to complement the activities of IQIC on combating illegal wildlife trade and wishes to support the draft decision 20AA directed to the parties on the International Consortium of Combating Wildlife Crime to continue enhance its intervention at national, regional and international level, as well as its implementation of the ICCWC Vision 2030 and the development of its second strategic action plan for 2027 to 2030 as contained in the annex to the COP20 Doc 16.4. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I now open the floor to non-parties and observer organizations. Okay, so from the floor, I do not see any support for US amendment from encouraged to invited for 20AA. So we will leave it as that. So the committee accepts the draft decisions in document CoP20 16.4 and the deletion of decisions 19.26 and 19.27. Thank you. I will now move to agenda item 16.5. The document is prepared by the Standing Committee. It proposes the adoption of draft decisions on the EBES assessment on the sustainable use of wild species contained in Annex 3 to the document. The decisions propose a review of resolutions and its potential amendment. Before I open the floor to parties, I would like to invite EBES Secretariat to make an intervention. EBES, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. It's a great pleasure for IPBES to take the floor today at COP20. As you know, IPBES is the intergovernmental science policy mechanism dedicated to biodiversity and the contributions it provides to people. IPBES has 152 governments as members, and over the past 13 years of its existence, IPBES has produced a scientifically robust knowledge base regarding biodiversity, with the first ever global assessment of biodiversity and ecosystem services approved in 2019, and 12 other assessment reports on key biodiversity topics, including the assessment of the sustainable use of wild species, approved in 2022. The assessment found that CITES overall has been an important instrument for driving global coordination of regulations and enforcement regarding international trade in wild species, and that the development implementation of non-detriment finding tools and methods in CITES also supports more sustainable use. We would like to take this opportunity to thank the CITES Standing Committee and Plants and Animals Committees for their thorough and comprehensive consideration of the findings of the IPBES assessment on sustainable use and its implications for the work of the Convention. IPBES assessments derive their added value from their use by IPBES members, multilateral environmental agreements, stakeholders, and other actors. And so we are very pleased to see our work being used in the work of CITES. We trust it adds value to your deliberations, to policy formulation and implementation. We also thank the CITES Secretariat for their ongoing support and engagement with the different processes of IPBES. In conclusion, let me reassure you of IPBES' readiness to support any future work of CITES on any matters related to IPBES assessments and its work program. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I now open the floor to parties. I now open the, United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair.
The United States thanks the chairs of the working groups on this topic. We support the coordination efforts between CITES and IPBES in a manner that benefits and does not detract from core CITES work. However, we are not convinced that continuation of this particular exercise would achieve this objective, and we are concerned about the added burden this places on the CITES committees. We also note the potentially broad scope of this work. We do not think that the intention is to open up discussion of a large number of resolutions at one time, on which we would urge caution. Therefore, we would not support the draft decisions in Annex 3 of this document. Instead, the Conference of the Parties might consider the annexes here as resources to be consulted in the course of future work of CITES and its subsidiary bodies. Lastly, we support deletion of the decisions 19.28 and 19.29. Thank you, Chair.
Mexico, you have the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Nuestra delegación apoya la adopción de los proyectos de decisión sobre la evaluación de la IPBES sobre uso sostenible de las especies silvestres que figuran en el anexo 3 de este documento, para identificar las resoluciones que puedan requerir enmiendas para incorporar aspectos de la evaluación de uso sostenible que mejoren la aplicación de nuestra convención. También apoyamos la eliminación de las decisiones 19.28 y 19.29 sobre el análisis de aspectos científicos y recomendaciones adicionales en caso de ser necesario, pues ya han sido implementadas. Aquí vale la pena mencionar y agradecemos las palabras de la Secretaría de IPBES, porque CITES ha sido ejemplar en la manera que con toda seriedad abordó a través de los comités de flora y fauna y del comité permanente las implicaciones que tiene para nuestra convención los resultados de esta evaluación de uso sostenible. Ya se hizo gran parte del trabajo. Debemos cerrar el círculo analizando si efectivamente es necesario enmendar algunas de las resoluciones. El trabajo ya está y ha sido incluso ejemplo para otras convenciones en cómo se pueden tomar en cuenta los trabajos de las evaluaciones que la IPBES elabora. Así es que apoyamos las decisiones tal cual están en el documento de trabajo. Gracias.
Colombia, you have the floor.
Gracias, Presidenta. Colombia apoya los proyectos de decisión sobre la evaluación de la IPBES relacionados con el uso sostenible de especies silvestres y la supresión de las decisiones 19.28 y 19.29. Asimismo, apoyamos y acogemos las recomendaciones derivadas del informe, reconociendo el trabajo de la IPBES como la plataforma científica idónea de biodiversidad, resaltando la importancia de la cooperación y las sinergias con las CITES. Gracias, Presidenta.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The EU and its member states welcome with appreciation the IPBES assessment report on the sustainable use of wild species. We also welcome the work done by the CITES committees to identify aspects relevant to CITES implementation that are not adequately covered in existing resolutions. CITES work needs to be based on science, and therefore consideration of IPBES assessment is critical. We therefore strongly support the recommendations of this document. Thank you, Chair.
China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. China recognized the strategic necessity of enhancing cooperation with IPBES to advance the science policy dialogue for biodiversity, as this aligns perfectly with CITES' strategic vision. Although we also note the concerns raised by some parties, and we are open to engaging in ongoing process. From the perspective of committee workload management, our primary focus is on the potential for overlapping duties and the resource dispersion that may arise from parallel processes. We hope this crucial process of reviewing resolutions can achieve substantive progress and avoid efficiency loss. However, we still support the current draft decisions in the principle and the recommendation on deletion on the decisions 19.28 to 19.29. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Tanzania, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. United Republic of Tanzania wishes to commend the cooperation between CITES and IPES in assessing the trade. Tanzania support the deletion of the decision in 19.28 and in 19.29 because this has been fully implemented. Also emphasize the need for this convention to take on board recommendation which has been made through the report that has been produced. So we support the adoption of the draft decision. Thank you.
Okay, I'm seeing support, majority, supporting the draft decisions in Annex 3 and also deleting decisions 19.28 and 19.29. I will take the last two interventions and then I will close the item. Fiji, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Fiji supports the comments made by EU.
Okay, so the committee accepts the draft decisions in document CoP20 16.5. The committee also accepts the deletion of decisions 19.28 and 19.29. I conclude this agenda item. Thank you. The next agenda item is 17, World Wildlife Trade Report. The document is submitted by the Standing Committee. The Conference of Parties is invited to adopt decisions in the annex to the document and to delete the COP19 decisions 19.30 and 19.31. In the proposed decisions, the Standing Committee proposes that an overview report providing information on global trade in CITES-listed species covering the trends and patterns of global trade in CITES-listed species as observed during the reporting period be prepared for COP21, subject to the availability of extra budgetary resources. The report would be based on an outline to be reviewed by the Standing Committee. I now open the floor to parties. China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. China commends Standing Committee for the concerted efforts to continue work on the report. We affirm the strategic value of the World Wildlife Trade Report in providing an overview of global legal trade. China supports the deletion of Decision 1930 and 1931. Regarding Item B of 20AA, China respectfully recommends to delete as appropriate. Then it becomes making recommendations to the 21st meeting of the Conference of the Parties. Thank you, Madam Chair.
European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The EU and its member states support decisions 20.AA and 20.BB, as well as the deletion of implemented decisions 19.30 and 19.31. Moreover, in addition to the feedback to be provided by the Standing Committee, suggested in decision 20AA, we propose also seeking parties' feedback and views on the outline of the overview report and take it into account for the preparation of the overview report. Based on this, we send upfront reformulated decisions to the Secretariat through which our suggested addition would be implemented. If regarded necessary, we could read them out. Thank you.
European Union, yes, please read it out.
Okay. So our changes in 20AA would only refer to what was 20 BB before, now is 20 CC. Then we would add a new decision, which is directed to the parties, which is 20.BB, and it would read, parties shall review and provide feedback to the Secretariat on the outline of the overview report submitted by the Secretariat. And then formal decision 20BB would now be 20.CC. And it would add a little B and read, issue a notification to the parties, providing the outline of the overview report, seeking their feedback and views on it, comma, and then the addition in C would be after taking into account to add the feedback and views of parties. That's it. Thank you.
I now open the floor to non-parties and observer organizations. Tanzania, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tanzania would like also to align itself with previous speakers in commending the work that has been done by the Standing Committee in producing this document. Tanzania acknowledges the importance of producing a comprehensive worldwide wildlife trade report, as it will help to provide a well-structured information on the routes, scale, and pattern of international trade in CITES listed species, the value, conservation impact, and the socio-economic benefit. Tanzania wishes also to draw the attention of the Conference of the Party to the document submitted by South Africa as Info Doc 54, which also provide the analysis report of between the period of 2014 to 2023 in the Southern African region. This report provide the information about the analysis of the first CITES trade report, which was produced in 2016, and provide important update of the regional trade patterns. Therefore, Tanzania support the adoption of the draft decision contained in the annex of the present document, and also support the deletion of decision 19.3 to 19.31 because they have been fully implemented. Thank you.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The United States believes that a conservative approach is a more appropriate way forward to make more efficient use of limited resources. The Standing Committee should first advise on whether to prepare the overview report based on the evaluation and discussion of the overview report outline. Therefore, we propose the following amendments to the draft decisions. Under 20AA, little a, after the phrase review and provide feedback, we propose inserting, including whether the overview report envisioned in decision 20.BB should be prepared, and continuing on with remaining text. Under 20.BB, little b, we propose beginning the paragraph with, if directed by the Standing Committee, in line with decision 20.AA, paragraph A, and replacing advice with feedback in reference to the Standing Committee. The revised portion of decision 20BB, little b, would read, if directed by the Standing Committee, in line with decision 20AA, paragraph A, taking into account the feedback of the Standing Committee. The rest of the paragraph remains unchanged. The United States believes that the report, as originally conceived, would have placed additional burden on both the parties and the Secretariat, and that its scope would have extended beyond the mandate of CITES. A deliberative approach of the Secretariat providing the Standing Committee with an outline of an overview report allows the committee to review, provide feedback, and advise whether an overview report will be prepared and submitted to COP21 as an information document. Additionally, we do not support the amendments by the EU as we feel that parties can provide feedback through the regional standing committee members. Thank you, Chair.
Wildlife Ranching South Africa, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. South Africa, or WRSA, aligns with the comments of Tanzania. We thank the Standing Committee for this document and strongly support the proposal in Doc 17 to proceed with the development of a World Wildlife Trade Report on global legal trade in CITES-listed species. Such a report offers value in providing a global overview of legal trade and serves as a critical communication tool linked to CITES' strategic vision. We believe this is an important and positive step forward. For South Africa, legal and sustainable wildlife trade has been a conservation and economic success story, supporting thousands of jobs and driving rural development. Our wildlife economy has enabled the recovery of numerous species through private and communal custodian models, where wildlife now occupies more land under private conservation areas than our national parks combined, and where sustainable use provides direct incentives for habitat protection and anti-poaching investments. In fact, not a single species in private ownership is facing the threat of extinction. In South Africa, my home country, conservation is a success based on trade, not aid. The real-world benefits are often invisible without accurate trade data. Thus, such a report would give real-time examples of the success in trade and provide a holistic report to enable the conservation decision makers to make informed and accurate decisions in the future. Thank you.
Center for Biological Diversity, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. This intervention is on behalf of 8 organizations. But first, the Center for Biological Diversity wishes to thank the host country, the Secretariat, the chairs, CITES parties, and stakeholders for their efforts to make this meeting happen. Back to document 17. The substantial work in funding the World Wildlife Trade Report would require its distance from CITES core objectives and the sensitive and onerous data submission requirements the full report necessitates, all weigh in favor of not moving forward with this agenda item. The proposed report strays far from CITES core mandates, and as we have heard many times in this meeting already, we need to focus on CITES' primary objectives. Thank you.
Okay, I do not hear support for either EU or US proposed edits, so I suggest that we retain the language as proposed by the Standing Committee. China, you have the floor.
We'd like to echo statements made by South Africa
And we believe the focus of our discussion should be on how to improve the report, not on how to reduce its content or delay its production. Thank you.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. In addition to not hearing any support, with the exception of China, we haven't heard any opposition to the edits that were made by the United States.
United States of America, I think just to explain is that we are trying to move forward here because we still have a few items to go, and that this was already discussed at SC 78, and there was already a compromise. European Union, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We would align ourselves with what you just summarized, that was agreed already at Standing Committee, and also would still stick to our proposition of allowing parties to give feedback on that as well. That is also aligned a bit to the beginning of that process we had on the World Wildlife Trade Report. Parties were also included, and it's maybe a question of transparency and access here. However, maybe we would also be open to listen to other parties' opinion on that, if Standing Committee regional members are sufficient, or as we suggest, that also parties get the option to provide their feedback. Thanks.
Okay, European Union. So when we understand the inclusion of the parties, so when the Standing Committee sends this document, the outline for review and provide feedback, it will be shared with the regional members. So there will still be a feedback loop from the parties. United States,
Thank you, Madam Chair. At SC 78, the Standing Committee decided to take a deliberate approach to the production of this report, and the United States edit is just in line with that deliberate approach, which allows the Standing Committee to decide, after seeing the overview outline, whether or not to commission the report. So it's still in line with the approach, the deliberate approach taken by the Standing Committee.
I will pass the floor to Secretariat.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to recall that the Secretariat had proposed to the Standing Committee at its 78th meeting to prepare two different types of report. One was a comprehensive report and the other one was an overview report. And during the quite lengthy discussion at SC 78, the compromise was that there would be no comprehensive report, but that there will be a request to the Secretariat to prepare an overview report as an information document for the 21st meeting of the Conference of the Parties. It's quite explicitly stated in paragraph 7 of the document. So the insertions or the edits by the United States to have a discussion whether or not to prepare the overview report could be included in the already stated language they review and provide feedback on the outline. That could include that the outline was not good enough and that there should be no overview report. But just to say that this was already agreed at the SC 78, that there should be an overview report and that the outline would be shared with the Standing Committee for comments by parties through their members of the Standing Committee. And then this would be then taken into account by the Secretariat in preparing the overview report for COP21 as an information document. Thank you very much.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. And with that, that explanation from the Secretariat, we are okay if our edits are not incorporated into the draft decision, with the understanding that feedback does include the decision of whether or not to proceed with the generation of the overview report.
Okay, so the committee accepts the decisions in document COP20 Doc 17 and the deletion of decisions 19.30 and 19.31. I close this item. Thank you. The next item is agenda item 19. This document is submitted by the chair of the Standing Committee, Language Strategy for the Convention. The committee is requested to consider the renewal of decisions 19.38 and 19.39. I also note that the current CITES resolutions have been translated into Russian, Arabic, Chinese, and are available on the CITES website. I would first like to open the floor to parties. Kyrgyzstan, you have the floor.
Спасибо, уважаемая госпожа председатель. Кыргызская республика первый раз берет слово и хотела бы в первую очередь поблагодарить секретариат CITES и Республики Узбекистан за организацию и теплый прием. Кыргызская республика поддерживает представленный проект решения о реализации стратегии применения официальных языков ООН в CITES и считает его крайне важным для повышения качества выполнения конвенции на национальном уровне. В Кыргызской республике, как и во многих других странах, специалисты, задействованные в реализации CITES, не владеют действующими рабочими языками конвенции. Это затрудняет полноценное изучение резолюций, решений, руководств и интерпретаций CITES, что напрямую влияет на эффективность исполнения ее норм и требований. Особенно серьезно это затрагивает сотрудников таможенной и пограничной служб, тех, кто ежедневно осуществляет контроль за перемещением объектов дикой флоры и фауны. Отсутствие материалов на доступном языке ограничивает их возможности своевременно и корректно применять требования CITES. Реализация предложенной языковой стратегии значительно улучшит доступ стран к официальной информации, обеспечит более равное и эффективное участие всех сторон, а также повысит качество практического исполнения Конвенции CITES. Кыргызская республика еще раз выражает поддержку за принятие данного проекта решения. Спасибо.
Kuwait, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Kuwait wishes
to sincerely thank China and Switzerland for their generous financial and in-kind contribution, which enables significant progress on making the CITES website and key document available in all 6 UN languages. This support has had a real impact on improving accessibility and strengthening implementation across regions. We emphasize that language equity is fundamental for ensuring full and effective participation of all parties and for improving understanding of core concepts such as the technical terms highlighted in the document. Advancing a unified and consistent CITES terminology is essential for compliance and coherent implementation. Kuwait therefore supports the proposed amendment to decisions and express its readiness to work closely with the CITES Secretariat to further develop the language strategy and to assist where possible in enhancing the Arabic terminology and translation quality. Thank you, Chair.
Bahrain, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The Kingdom of Bahrain supports the recommendations presented in the language strategy documents. We highly value the efforts by the Secretariat and supporting states to deliver official translation in all United Nations languages, especially Arabic, Chinese, and Russian. Bahrain urged the continuance of this fair approach and call upon the Secretariat to actively seek innovation funding opportunities to secure official and simultaneous translation, enabling effective participation for all parties. Equity among parties requires that Arabic, Chinese, and Russian speakers have full access to legal text and discussions, as these languages hold official status in the United Nations. Accordingly, we urge the adoption of the revised decisions and support the Secretariat in exploring global and regional funding channels, thus strengthening the Convention's implementation on the principles of fairness and equality. Thank you.
Qatar, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Qatar thanks the Standing Committee and the Secretariat for their work and the language strategy, also aligned with the Speaker for us, Kuwait and Bahrain. Thank you.
China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairs. Thank you, Representative who have just spoke. China has always emphasized that Chinese, Arabic, and Russian all have the wide range of users, and including these 3 languages in the working language of the Convention will greatly benefit its implementation and application, promote the effectiveness of the Convention, and align with the requirements of the United Nations and other international organizations to promote the diversity of working languages. We agree in the principle with the Doc 19, and the language coverage of the Convention should be gradually improved. Of course, we understand the budget considerations. Yeah. In this regard, we suppose some constructive suggestions that would be discussed at the SC meetings, such as incorporating AI translation, etc., into the implementation of language strategies to better utilize funds. However, we very much hope that Arabic, Chinese, and Russian, the 3 official languages of United Nations, would be widely used in the CITES meetings, thereby further enhancing the representativeness and fairness. Thank you. 谢谢.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The United States recognizes the benefits of making the Convention and its provisions available and accessible to as broad a community as feasible. However, we cannot ignore the substantial financial and administrative costs associated with adding working languages to the Convention. With this in mind, the United States can accept the draft decisions as written, Provided that the program's support costs, funding the Secretariat's time will be pulled from extra budgetary contributions only. We also note again that informal translations are not official CITES documents and should be labeled as coming from a particular party. The United States remains strongly opposed to the use of any core resources to expand language services of the Convention to non-working languages. Thank you.
Uzbekistan, you have the floor.
Господин, уважаемый председатель, Узбекистан также поддерживает Катар в именно использовании этих языков определенных. Это русский, арабский, китайский. Узбекистан поддерживает эту позицию. Спасибо.
Russian Federation, you have the floor.
Спасибо, госпожа председатель. Российская Федерация поддерживает выступления коллег из Кувейта, Китая. Мы считаем важным применение всех 6 языков в Конвенции, так как это упрощает работу как экспертов в проводимых совещаниях, так и исполнение Конвенции гражданами и организациями при исполнении и организации трансграничных перевозок животных и растений. Это улучшит процедуру, и мы полностью поддерживаем проект решения. Спасибо.
Sudan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sudan supports Kuwait and China positions. Thank you.
Okay, I hear overwhelming support, so I'm just going to close the item now. Thank you, everyone. The committee accepts the proposed revisions to Decision 19.38 and 19.39 as contained in CoP20.19. And I conclude this agenda item. Thank you. The next item is item 20, Capacity Building Framework. The document is submitted by the Standing Committee. This committee is requested to consider the proposed maintenance of Decision 19.40 and revision of Decisions 19.41 to 19.43 on Capacity Building Framework. I now open the floor to parties. China, you have the floor.
Sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair. China has actively supported the capacity building efforts and the convention through providing extraordinary funding, organizing numerous training courses, and implementing targeted projects to advance the technical cooperation mandated by the convention's text and the relevant resolutions. China's scientific authority has launched the TESTA program, an initiative designed to build and enhance the institutional capacity of CITES scientific authority across the parties. To date, 5 sessions of the program have been successfully completed, benefiting 7 fellows. This reflects our commitment to enriching the Convention's capacity building framework and exploring innovative dimensions of such efforts. We welcome colleagues from all parties to participate in the TESTA program in future and stay ready to work together to strengthen the effective implementation of the Convention. For further details, please refer to the CoP20 Information Document 40. In this spirit of cooperation, China will continue to share our ideas, experiences, and information related to the capacity building framework. Regarding the decisions on capacity building, China's support to maintain decision 90.40 and to renew the decision 90.41 to 90.43 on the capacity building framework as contained in the annex to the present document. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Canada supports the draft decision, including the idea of maintaining decision 19.4 and revising decisions 19.41 and 19.43 on capacity building framework. We think that the development of the capacity building framework will help in addressing matters related to capacity building more strategically and holistically, thereby using scarce resources more effectively. In developing the framework, the Standing Committee should also learn from experience such as the CAP and NDF capacity building initiative, as well as capacity needs identified in species-specific initiative or activities for combating illegal trade. Finally, we agree that a working group is the right structure to advance the drafting of the framework. Thank you.
Senegal, you have the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Le Sénégal appuie vraiment cette idée de renforcer les capacités parce que c'est le renforcement des capacités permettre une meilleure mise en œuvre de la Convention. Vous savez, le problème qu'on traverse souvent, les espèces sont inscrites, c'est une chose, par exemple en annexe 2, mais la mise en œuvre en est une chose et il faut passer absolument par la CNP. Donc si les gens ne sont pas outillés pour pouvoir faire la CNP, on reste là, statu quo, et on tombe facilement dans l'annexe 1. Donc le Sénégal s'inscrit vraiment dans cette direction vivement. Merci.
I now open the floor to non-parties and observer organizations. Mali, you have the floor.
Merci bien, Madame. Et nous sommes à notre première fois pour cette rencontre à Ouzbékistan. Nous souhaitons remercier et féliciter le gouvernement d'avoir organisé pour la première fois sur sa terre natale. Et du coup, puisque vous nous donnez la parole de parler, les langues sont aussi des instruments de travail, des instruments de communication et de facilitation par rapport à l'exploitation et l'analyse des documents. Et comme vient de dire mon prédécesseur, le Sénégal, le Mali adhère justement à cette adhésion pour que cette langue-là puisse être valorisée de plus en plus dans les assises. Nous avons des problèmes souvent pour la traduction parce qu'il n'y a pas un traducteur. Et si déjà ces langues-là sont aussi utilisées aujourd'hui comme des moyens de communication, nous facilitons les tâches.
Sorry, Mali.
Je vous remercie.
Mali, we are at Agenda
Je vous remercie.
20. We are at Agenda 20, which is the capacity building framework, not the language strategy. Do you have an intervention for Agenda 20, capacity building framework?
Oui, c'est toujours pour soutenir justement cette philosophie pour laquelle nous adhérons bien sûr. Merci bien, Madame la Présidente.
Liberia, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Yes, Liberia would like to align with the position of Senegal because in implementation of the convention, you have focal points, are always changed. Like you change the scientific authority and then a management authority. So the capacity building, is crucial in always strengthening newcomers and also focal points and other actors. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I see support. So the committee accepts the maintenance of Decision 19.40 and revision of Decisions 19.41 to 19.43 on capacity building framework as contained in CoP20.20. I conclude this item. Thank you. The next agenda item is 21, Compliance Assistance Program. The document is submitted by the Standing Committee. The Conference of Parties is invited to adopt decisions set out in the annex to the document and to delete decisions 19.44 to 19.46. In the draft decisions, the Standing Committee proposes the continuation of the Compliance Assistance Program subject to the availability of funding. I now open the floor to parties. I now open the floor to non-parties and observer organizations. China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. China commend the Standing Committee in preparing this document and all parties participating in the Compliance Assistance Program. China also agrees that the cap is far more critical for the parties on the list of in violation of compliance to be lifted, and so that effectiveness of the CITES could be ensured and enhanced. China knows that some parties being aided by the cap are continue to face challenges in compliance matters. Therefore, we wonder if the Compliance Assistance Program operated more effectively. In this regard, China recommended 2 revisions for 20.cc directly to the Standing Committee. I will read the entire paragraphs with our proposed version. Proposed revision. The new 20.cc, the Standing Committee shall develop and approve guidelines for operation of the CAP, including but not limited to eligibility for recipient parties, funding mechanisms, and use plans, and training and educational perspectives. And at 20.dd, the Standing Committee shall develop and make available an assessment and monitoring framework for the implementation of the CAP, and report its funding of the performance of the CAP and recommendation to the 21st meeting of the Conference of the Parties. Therefore, the existing old 20.cc could be removed. Thank you, Madam Chair.
United States of America, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The United States believes the more CITES parties that have capacity to carry out CITES requirements, the better equipped the international community will be to tamper down the illicit trade in wildlife. This illegal activity threatens U.S. national security, undermines American businesses, and bolsters organized crime groups. CITES capacity building, when feasible and practical, benefits the United States. With that, the United States generally supports the draft decisions in the document. However, the United States opposes in draft decision 20BB, subparagraph B, the reference to gender mainstreaming and the forthcoming CITES Gender Action Plan in the Compliance Assistance Program. The United States strongly opposes the inclusion of language referencing gender ideology, as we believe it is detrimental to the well-being of women and girls. Further, inclusion of the proposed Gender Action Plan exceeds the core mandate of CITES. Thank you, Chair.
Russian Federation, you have the floor.
Благодарю. Российская Федерация поддерживает высказывание Соединенных Штатов Америки. Мы также считаем, что пункт 20BB, B маленькая, излишний здесь, и упоминание гендера в контексте Compliance Assistance Program неуместно.
Bahrain, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Bahrain would like to support the statement by Russian Federation, by Russian participants, indicating that mentioning the gender is not part of the compliance. Thank you.
I now open the floor to non-parties and observer organizations. European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The EU and its member states support the draft decisions and the deletion of decisions 19.44 to 19.46. However, with regards to the comments made on decision 20 BB small b, we would like to highlight that it would be premature to decide on this matter at this moment in time, given its linkages to working document 25 and the discussions that are still to come on the gender action plan. So this would have to be kept in mind, and wording of this point should be reviewed in line with the COP decision on agenda point 25 in our view. Thank you.
Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We just wanted to comment on the proposal that were made by China, and we understand the intent behind their proposal. However, we think that it would create some work for the standing committee, and in light of our discussion on workload, our preference would be to maintain the decision as is. And we'd just like to align ourselves with the EU that let's wait until we have a conclusion on agenda item 25 before making edits to decision 20 BB little b. Thank you.
Thank you. So I did not hear support for China's amendments for US proposed edits to 20 BB small b, the removal of that paragraph, which was supported by Russia and Bahrain. Can we just hold off this portion until we discuss agenda item 25, which will be taken first thing tomorrow morning? So the committee accepts the deletion of 19.44 and to 19.46. And so for the draft decisions, we will come back to it again. Thank you. Okay, we're going to item 22, countrywide review of significant trade. The document is submitted by the Standing Committee in consultation with the chairs of the Animals and Plants Committee. The committee is requested to consider the proposed draft decisions on countrywide review of significant trade found in Annex to COP20.22. I will first open the floor to parties. I will now open the floor to non-parties and observer organizations. European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I speak on behalf of the European Union and its member states. We acknowledge the challenges posed on implementation of the Convention, and not all parties to the Convention have the same means to facilitate successful compliance. We're therefore supportive of all the different means addressed in the agenda under the headline of capacity building. We recognise shared goals and believe that for each one of them there is need to consider interdependencies between decisions on country-wide review of significant trade, capacity building and compliance assistance programme and other agenda items related to under capacity building. With this in mind, we support the deletion of decisions 19.47 and 19.48 and the adoption of the new draft decisions as recommended in CoP20.22. However, we will have some slight edits to make the decision clearer. So I will read these edits now with your permission.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, in 20 BB, we should add, subject to the availability of resources, the Secretariat shall provide targeted capacity building support at a national level to eligible parties, that's our change there, not selected as part of the Compliance Assistance Programme, currently subject to recommendations under the review of significant trade according to their needs, including the application of the new NDF guidance and etc. Yeah. So we're adding eligible, not selected as part of the Compliance Assistance Programme and according to their needs. Thank you.
Interpreters, can we get an extra 10 minutes? Thank you. Thank you very much. Any more views and comments? Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much for this document, which we very much appreciate, and we support the draft decisions within the document. We do draw attention to draft decision 20.cc, little paragraph A, regarding considering whether the RST process or a complementary new mechanism could provide targeted support. Given the challenge of managing a number of different mechanisms, we wonder if instead we could replace a complementary new mechanism with an adapted compliance action program to see if we could use the existing tools in order to address the concerns and the challenges that are arising as a result of these long-term significant review of significant trade issues. Thank you, Chair.
Can I hear any views or support for either EU or Canada's edits? European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you. We could support Canada's edits. Thank you.
United Kingdom, you have the floor.
The UK can also support the edits from Canada and the EU.
All right, then can I just ask if there is any objection then to EU's edits or Canada's edits? I've heard some support for Canada's edits. Okay, I do not see any from the floor, so okay, we will accept the edits. Okay, I'll repeat the edits again. So 20BB, so subject to the availability of resources, the sentence, and then at a national level to eligible parties not selected as part of the compliance assistance program, and then and according to their needs, then it follows currently subjected to recommendations, and it follows the rest of the sentence. I'll repeat again. 20BB at a national, second sentence, at a national level to eligible parties not selected as part of the compliance assistance program and according to their needs, currently subject to recommendations, and then the sentence follows. And the next by Canada, 20cc, small little a, second sentence, and consider whether the RST process or an adaptive compliance action program could provide targeted support, and then the sentence follows. I repeat again, 20cc, little a, the second sentence, and consider whether the RST process or an adapted compliance action program could provide targeted support to parties. Then the sentence follows. Canada, I just need a clarification for the adaptive action program, or is it adapted assisted program? Adapted compliance assisted program.
Oh, thank you, Chair. So in looking at this discussion, we understood that there were challenges with the current structure of the compliance assistance program, but rather than work with a new mechanism, we were thinking an adapted compliance assisted program could help support some of these issues. So compliance assisted program is what we were referencing.
Thank you, Canada. So I'll just repeat again, and consider whether the RST process or an adapted compliance assisted program could provide targeted support, and then the sentence follows. Okay, thank you. So the committee accepts the amended draft decisions that we've just edited just now in CoP20 Doc 22, and also the committee accepts the deletion of decisions 19.47 and 19.48. And I conclude this agenda item. Thank you. Okay, it's come to the end of the day one session. Thank you so much for your very concise interventions, and that, you know, we have completed the agenda items that we are supposed to for day one. Thank you so much. And Secretariat has some housekeeping.
Thank you, Chair. A few housekeeping announcements. Firstly, the Credential Committee will meet in the Lawn Orchid Room shortly after the end of this session. Lawn Orchid Room for the Credentials Committee, so at 17:15.
Central Asia.
Apologies, apparently there has been changes. So the Credentials Committee will meet in the Central Asian Tortoises Room shortly after this meeting. So Central Asian Tortoise Room for Credentials Committee. The Bureau, on the other hand, will meet in Lawn Orchid Room, I hope, shortly after this meeting as well. The Bureau in Lawn Orchid Room and the Credentials Committee in the Central Asian Tortoises Room. Also, you've heard that the working group on enhancing the work and efficiency of the convention that was established earlier today in this committee will be convening in Black Stork Room at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Black Stork Room, 8 a.m. And I understand that it will be a list of other working groups, including this one, scheduled for tomorrow that can be shown on the screen. Technicians, do you have the display that's available to be shown on the screen, please? If not, then I believe these schedules will also be available in the timetable that you see on the monitors all over in the hallway.
In the app.
Okay, now you see the working groups on the screen. And I conclude this housekeeping announcements, and we will reconvene again at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Thank you, Chair.